Welcome to another episode of the Guy Code. I am Rona Osra. Now, guys, on this episode, we're going to be talking about age gap dating in Kenya. I'm at the age whereby I'm seeing a lot of my peers dating and marrying actually ladies who are 10 years younger. And at my age, is that quite appropriate? That's not a very young lady. That's a fairly mature lady who, as they say, their frontal lobe has developed, as I've been hearing, and maybe some of you have been hearing as well. So I just wanted to share some insight from what I've been seeing from them, from some who have actually married them. What was their experience, and what you should look out for as a guy, especially in this context of Kenya, and possibly applies to most of the world since I have been having these conversations with men from different parts of the world also doing the same thing. Now, first of all, we need to understand what kind of man would be dating a lady and seeking to marry a lady who is 10 years younger than him. From my experience, there are two particular circumstances. Number one, this is not his first marriage, right? He possibly had another relationship prior to this one, and he got to most likely get to separate from that particular lady, and they're in a co-parenting relationship now. He wants another partner, and he just is interested in going younger. Another particular scenario where this happens is when the guy has a very demanding professional life. I've seen guys who have gone through their whole professional academic career, reaching very high heights, getting doctorates, moving to managers, and that has been a very gruesome and, it takes a lot of time to achieve that 6, 7 years. And that's before you know it, your 20s are over, you're settling down, you're getting a rhythm, you're in your early 30s, mid 30s, and now you want to, find a lady and find a lady that you want to settle down with, and you're attracted to younger ladies, 25, 24, something like that, who just might be fresh out of campus. So when this happens, guys, this is what I want most of us to understand a couple of things. First, a younger guy, when you're dealing with this younger lady, her peers, which is mostly a younger guy, that's the person who will excite her emotionally, right? Because that's a peer, that's someone who understands and who is in the same possible activities and hobbies that they have, right? When young people do what young people do. In fact, there's a friend of mine who got to marry a lady just out of campus. He would have married her in campus, but he decided to wait later so that she gets to experience the fullness of that campus life, and he comes later so that he doesn't have to deal with a lady who, oh, let's go out, or let's do this and that, oh, I want to try this, oh, I want to do a road trip. Or he wants to deal with a lady who has experienced all that and he wants to settle down and be in a home. That didn't work out, and we're about to get into why that didn't work out. So you need to understand that, and we need to understand from what I've been seeing, and possibly you can even pitch in from your own experiences. Their peers will be the people who will excite them emotionally. Why? Because they can be spontaneous, right? When she's 25, 24, she's still having those friends who call her up and say, hey, where you at? Let's go hang out. Let's go do this and that. And you, as a mature man in your 30s, mid 30s, you have a routine, you have priorities, you have responsibilities. You can't just show up at a whim and do whatever you want, especially when it comes to such activities. You may have financial freedom, yes, but you're not as spontaneous as they can be with their peers. So that's one thing that we really need to understand. Second thing, and this is the point that I've seen most men get to endure, and unfortunately has led to many of their breakups and separations in these relationships, is that they fail to understand that you will experience her change very directly. For example, I know a couple of guys who married ladies 23, 24, and their mid 30s, going to late. and they assumed that the kind of lady that they are dealing with and they met at 24, 23, starting off her career, finding a job, finding her footing professionally, is the same lady who will always be there and will be have the same amount of time to be there for them in the same way. For example, I know guys, and possibly you've been in those situations whereby you dealing with this young lady, you're very busy, you finally have someone who can actually take up, some of the things that you don't want to think about. You're dealing with a lot of projects, a lot of work. She has time to actually stay in the house, think about what you're about to what you can eat, how things will be cleaned, how what needs to be added in the house. You don't have to think about that, at that stage. And since she's also possibly, hasn't found her footing professionally at work, she has time to do that for you. She has time to figure out, his pantry isn't full, or his dishes aren't cleaned. Okay, what are we going to eat? Let me fix that up. So when he comes back, he has that done. So she has that freedom to do that when she's early on. But when she begins to have her footing, and especially now, whereby the workplace is employing so many women, because number one, of course, they are the kind of employees who can get to endure more in the workplace. As men, a man is the kind, if you get to push him to his limits professionally, he's the kind to say, you know what, you can keep your job and leave. Some other women and many other women might just go rant to their friends, cry about it, but will come back, and they want that kind of employees who are patient with them. When things get murky, they will still be around, but not, leave when they feel they have been pushed to a wall. Men are the kind to walk away fast. And also, there are more women going for masters and stuff like that. So many of these quote unquote NGOs and corporates like to find individuals who have that kind of accreditation. Most men are more into skills than certifications, But anyway, I digress. And so when this happens and she begins to have these work opportunities, she begins to grow in her career, most men don't know how to deal with that evolution and that transition. You will see that very directly. She has a job. In fact, many jobs right now, they have to travel. Now, the lady who was in your house, be able to fix up your meals, be able to clean around, be able to, handle the things that you don't have to think about. Well, her new job has flown her down to Joburg, has flown her down to Cape Town for a week. Now you're living like, okay, this is a big transition. I didn't sign up for this. And this can really be a big shift. So for most men, they don't see that coming. They see, okay, this lady is 10 years younger. It will take some time before she gets her footing. And by the time that happens, I will have already found a way to get to that balance. But life moves very fast, guys. And when that happens, guys are, shocked on what to do. And that begins certain arguments because now the lady is now into herself, can lead into her own autonomy. She now feels, you know what, I'm an adult too. Because how much money are you making? You're making six figures, right? I'm kind of making six figures too. So I should have a say. Before I could look up to you like you're the wise one, but since I'm making just as much or close, I feel I'm wise too. So that conversations really brings out a conflict in that relationship. And this leads to my other point is that in case you had that leverage of 10 years older, you felt you're going to hold that leverage over her. I've seen more, I've experienced life more than you have, I've done more than you have done in your life, and these changes happen, you realize you're losing your leverage. Maybe because of finances. She feels like because I'm earning as much, you might have experienced more, but the results, which is money, and most people get to measure your wisdom. If you're so wise in life, you should be wealthy. So if it's measured in wealth, then she will feel like she's on your level if she's earning just as much, even though you're older. So that leverage shifts. Is that you can't just tell her, I'm your man, I'm older. You should look up to me and hear me out when I tell you this is the best way to go about it. She's like, no, I'm a professional as well. I have these masters. I'm doing this job. I have a say too. Most guys experience that and are like, okay, who is this person? This is not the person I married initially. I expected that lady who was really nice, fresh out of campus, wide-eyed, very teachable, as men like we like to say, very teachable lady. Now we have this lady who's getting to talk back at me, wants a conversation and saying, you know what, that's your opinion, not that. No longer is it that's your instruction, that's your opinion. I have my opinion. What do we do about it now? And it can really cause a lot of strife. And this has been definitely a situation that I've seen from many of my peers lately, whereby particularly two individuals who have separated from their wives that they married, even with children. Some of these ladies just upped and left them. And now they're wondering, wait, okay, what is going on? I thought this was just going to be a passing cloud. She's young still. She's just throwing a fit and she just ups and leaves with the children. Guys are wondering, okay, who is this person and how did we get here? And it's one of the things that we really need to anticipate happening. And another thing, and this is one of the issues that unfortunately have been in the news in Kenya, and whereby most quite notable people in the personalities in the political sphere have succumbed to it, is that the sex life. If you're talking about the sex life, some of the older men who want to feel that they can still perform as younger men get to consume certain substances like Viagra. And there have been politicians, there have been notable businessmen in this country who have died from an overdose while partaking in these activities because they were dealing with a younger lady, they wanted to feel young again, and now their bodies couldn't handle it. Why? They are not as fit as before. Of course, their bodies are different. They can't just accommodate that heavy adrenaline, rush anymore. And they end up having a heart attack right in the activity. And it's sad. So, guys, definitely do not go that route. Just keep yourself fit, right? Don't try and prove anything. When you're 30, over 30s, 35, what are you trying to prove to men? What are you trying to prove to other women that you can perform like a 21-year-old? That stage is past. You have better things to think about. So here are a couple of things that I wanted to share with you guys. Just a recap is that if you're dealing with a lady who's 10 years younger, her peers will excite her emotionally. She will seek to you mainly for stability, mainly for leadership. You don't have to go out there and try to be the fun, mature guy, older guy. It doesn't fit well. It looks goofy, right? Another thing, recap, is that you will experience her change very directly because these changes will happen and you should anticipate it. She will not be, you know, the fresh graduate you got to marry who is very wide eyed, who is very open to be taught, who's very open to be instructed and looks up to you. Dynamics can change, and that leads to the other point of that when this leverage changes, how will you accommodate it? How will you anticipate it? You're dealing with someone who now is gets to 30 as well, eventually gets to 30, and now she feels, you know what, I'm an adult too, and this guy, as he has been giving me all this instruction, I'm realizing that his choices haven't always been the best choices, and I think I can even make better choices. Sometimes they feel that they can make better choices alone and they leave. So here's just what I wanted to share with you guys. Age gap dating in Kenya. I would like to hear your comments, your thoughts. What has your experience been when dealing with younger ladies, marrying younger ladies? And what have you noticed maybe from your friends? And what do you think we also need to look out for when getting into these relationships? That has been this episode. And until next time, guys, we shall talk soon. Bye.
Guy Code with Rena Osware.